Today we're gonna dive into the pilot episode of One Piece. Just one episode, because I can't do all 17 million episodes. I wanna take a unique approach to this story and look at the world of One Piece as a reflection of the real world. Specifically, we'll look at the hero and the adversary and try and learn things from them that can be practically applied to our own personal life. My name is Kyle J. Shower, and welcome to the Kyle J. Show. One Piece is known not only to be one of the greatest animes of all time, but it's known to be one of, if not the greatest adventure story of all time. And I've never watched it.
Bro, for real?
Boo!
You suck!
What the hell, man?
Get your shit together.
Until about a month ago. I don't know, it just had so many episodes. Like, holy shit, look at that! It's pretty damn good. So good, it inspired me to make this video to look at the meaning. I do want to preface this episode and say I did watch the first 5 episodes of the show, but then I stopped. When I decided I wanted to make this video, I wanted to do it without knowing anything else about where the story goes. You know, I didn't want to apply meanings to things that I already knew were going to be meaningful. It just felt like that would be kind of cheating. So I'm gonna take the meaning I get for what it is without knowing anything more. So if you've never watched it, feel free to hop on this journey with me. Or if you've been watching it for years, feel free to bash me in the comments for everything I get wrong. One Piece is set in the Great Pirate Era, where everyone and their mother is out looking for this treasure called the One Piece that's supposed to contain all the world's wealth, fame, and power. Well, that already sounds like the premise for real life. Other than the pirate stuff, I mean, that's our holy trinity. You get those 3 and you've won the game of life.
Come on, Jeffrey, you can do it.
This video is gonna be focused on what One Piece Episode 1 has to offer us in real life. This is not gonna be a normal TV show review. I'm not a TV critic, I'm a meaning critic. And today we'll look at the meaning of this episode the same way you would look at the meaning of an ancient myth. This approach does not look at myths as something that is incorrect or false. It's an approach that looks at what this story is trying to tell us about the way our reality fundamentally works and means to us. For today, the world of One Piece is just a representation of our real world. Myths have been one of the ways humanity has attempted to make sense of the world since the beginning of time. And One Piece seems to pick up right where our ancestors left off. This episode alone is filled with themes, ideas, and imagery that have all been a part of myths and many other stories for thousands of years. Along the way, I hope to show areas where we're united in thought and point out some connections to other stories, both ancient and modern. Right at the top, they give us a pair of images that reflect an age-old idea. And this idea sets the tone for the rest of the episode. The episode begins showing us this image, and then follows it up with this image. These immediately strike me as a pair of opposites. It contrasts things like light and darkness, the sky above and the depths below, the sun which gives life and the whirlpool which consumes and kills. This dualism is a pattern in our world that's been observed and written about for a very long time. We see it in things like night and day, order and chaos, God and Satan, the conscious and unconscious. I could do this for hours! These were some of the first 2 categories we used to make sense of how our world works. But the images also have some similarities worth mentioning. They're both in the shape of a circle, and they have this circular motion to them. Like the dualism we just mentioned, the image of a circle has been seen all over the world since the beginning of time as a way to make sense of reality. I have a quote here from psychologist Carl Jung, where he briefly breaks down the symbol of the circle.
Whether the symbol of the circle appears in primitive sun worship or modern religion, in myths or dreams, in the mandalas drawn by Tibetan monks, in the ground plans of cities, or in the spherical concepts of early astronomers, it always points to the single most vital aspect of life, its ultimate wholeness.
From this perspective, the circle represents the wholeness of life. In order to capture this wholeness, you have to take into account both the things of the sun and the things of the whirlpool. When you put the 2 images together, it's very reminiscent of something like the symbol of yin and yang. Through these images, the artist is attempting to communicate that the world works through this idea of interconnected opposites. Whew, there was a lot to unpack there, and we're only like 20 seconds into the episode. But next we have to see how all of this relates to us. If our world consists of 2 opposing forces that make up a whole, whole, then in the same way, we can navigate those opposing forces in an appropriate manner so that we can be whole ourselves. For this, we can look to two types of characters that embody these opposing forces: the hero and the adversary. These characters are a symbol for what humanity is capable of. We each have the potential to be the hero or the adversary in our own lives. Throughout this episode, we're going to watch our hero embody the way of the sun depicted in the first image, and our adversary embody the way of the whirlpool in the second image. So let's continue through the rest of the episode and see what these characters offer us on our personal journey to finding the hero within ourselves.
Please note, for those of you who are anime purists, all clips will be dubbed due to the convenience of my audio-only listeners. Thank you for understanding and not flaming me in the comments.
One of the many reasons we love heroes in anime is because of who they are, and the feats they accomplish inspire us to be like them and accomplish big things in our own lives. When we take in a story, oftentimes we unconsciously imagine ourselves as the hero. But today I want to do that consciously. So as we continue, we're going to personalize the hero and put ourselves in their shoes. Or sandals. The first introduction we get is not even the hero himself. It's a voice coming from a barrel floating in the middle of the ocean.
I'm Luffy, the man who's gonna be king of the pirates!
Luffy's got big goals. He's striving for the top. And while you and I aren't trying to be the pirate king, I think,
You are not a pirate.
there's still something to learn here about how we can accomplish our own goals. Maybe in your own life, you've willingly or unwillingly been given a goal that seemed so impossible, it might have felt like you were hopelessly floating in a barrel lost at sea. Yet despite his unfortunate and somewhat hopeless predicament, you can hear the resilience in his voice, ready to take on the difficult journey ahead. And once again, this is some deeply mythological imagery. A hero floating along the waters is seen in the stories of Moses from the Jewish Torah, or Vishnu in Hinduism, or Osiris from ancient Egyptian mythology. If you get really symbolic with me here for a second, floating in a barrel surrounded by waters of the unknown kinda sounds like us in the womb. If the hero of our story is to be one we should imitate in our own life, then it makes sense that they depict to us the beginning of his journey the same way we begin our own journey. A cruise ship filled with a bunch of innocent individuals comes passing by and spots the barrel. And as the crew is hauling the barrel up on board, a pirate ship comes out from hiding and begins to attack. This is where we're introduced to the adversary of the episode, ALVIDA.
Kobe!
Yes, ma'am?
Who is the most beautiful of all on the sea?
Well, that would be the captain of our ship, Lady ALVIDA, of course.
ALVIDA is everything you don't want to be as you go through your journey. She's the tyrannical leader you see presented in myths all across the world as an example of how not to act. We see many characteristics of the typical adversarial behavior in this quick 20-second introduction. She starts off by picking on this kid named Kobe. Kobe is depicted as a small, terrified kid surrounded by all these tough-looking pirates. She establishes dominance by picking on the smallest, weakest person in the room. That's some real tyrannical shit. Then ALVIDA asks, who's the most beautiful of all on the seas? And with a terrified stutter, Kobe says that she is. And then we get this slow pan that reveals what she looks like. Listen, every woman is beautiful in their own way, but this isn't a real person. This is a cartoon, and the artist clearly gave her a very unflattering appearance. Yet she's under this impression that not only is she beautiful, she's the most beautiful. This woman is clearly delusional. One of the goals of something like a myth is to get how we work in tune with the way reality works. So if your words or actions are not in tune with reality, you're gonna have a bad time.
Gonna have a bad time.
ALVIDA's idea of herself is not in tune with reality. And even worse is that she manipulates people by using her position of power to force this false reality onto others. The delusional, manipulative tyrant forcing a false reality onto others is a motif that we've seen in plenty of other modern stories, like Marvel's Wanda, who creates an entire city subject to her delusions, or Homelander from The Boys, who forces a guy to shapeshift into his dead mother figure. That was f***ing weird. It can also be seen in plenty of Disney films, like Tangled, where the mother manipulates and forces her daughter's reality to be within the confines of a tower in the middle of nowhere. These are just a few examples of many. Feel free to write in the comments where else you might have seen a similar adversary motif. In the next scene of the episode, the pirates begin to invade the ship, and Kobe is forced to go along with them due to ALVIDA's iron club.
Oh no! Not the club! Anything but the club!
ALVIDA ruling with an iron club is very reminiscent of someone who rules with an iron fist, an expression commonly referred to someone who's a tyrant. I also found it funny how ALVIDA jumps across and completely fails, giving us a sense that she's actually kind of incompetent and not worthy of being in the position of power she holds, not just because of her shitty personality, but her lack of ability. As the invasion continues, Kobe, followed by some other pirates, stumble upon the barrel hauled up earlier in the episode. As they go to see what's inside, Luffy emerges and our hero is born. He fights off the pirates and Kobe just stands there stunned and amazed. This man just fought a 1v3 that immediately shows us as the audience that, in contrast to ALVIDA, Luffy is very competent. Kobe is so enamored with this Luffy character that he follows him, and through their conversation we get to hear some of Kobe's backstory as a forced captive on ALVIDA's ship.
I stepped out onto a small fishing boat on the outskirts of town to go catch my dinner. Turned out that particular boat was actually headed for a pirate ship.
Luffy then responds, calling him a moron and a coward for not running away. Hero behavior? Okay, maybe our hero hasn't fully learned to embody the way of the sun just quite yet. He's young, naive, and has some room to grow, but the character has to have some flaws. Next, it cuts back to ALVIDA, where the pirates come to warn her about this monster Luffy that's below deck.
It came from inside the barrel! That's a horrible monster! Huh? Who are you? Calling a monster!
All she hears is the word monster and immediately assumes they're talking about her and chucks her iron club at the guy with no hesitation. She didn't care to pay attention to her crew and hear what they actually had to say. She just jumped to conclusions and reacted thoughtlessly. She's a narcissist who does what narcissists do, abuse everyone around them. She's on another level of being self-absorbed. The show cuts back to Luffy and Kobe below deck having a little heart-to-heart. They start sharing their goals in life, and Luffy, of course, says he's gonna be the Pirate King, which leaves Kobe in utter shock. Kobe claims that that's impossible.
It's not about if I can. I'm doing this because I want to. I decided long ago that I'm gonna be king of the pirates. If I have to die fighting for that, then I die.
Here we see the incredible ambition Luffy has. His confidence emits a certain self-awareness. He knows himself well enough to know that this is the journey he has to take. And on top of that, he's self-assured. He truly believes in himself to attain this impossible goal.
If I put my mind to it, if I'm prepared to die for it, could I do something like that? Do you think I could ever join the Marines? Catching bad guys is the only thing I've ever wanted to do! It's been my dream since I was a child!
Luffy's mindset alone begins to make an impact on Kobe. Listening to Luffy talk gives Kobe a moment of insight into his own life, where he reveals his own goal of wanting to be a Marine. Kobe has the self-awareness to know the path he'd like to take, but he lacks the self-assurance to do something about it. By listening to this mindset Luffy has, he recognizes the power and potential it has to change his life. Now, I know I said that we'd focus on the hero and adversary, but in this scene, Kobe represents a place where a lot of us are at in life. We know where we want to be, but we have these mental blocks like fear and anxiety that hold us back. Luffy has figured out how to overcome some of these mental blocks, and through the courage he carries, he inspires Kobe. This new perspective makes Kobe feel empowered, and as he starts hyping himself up, ALVIDA breaks through the roof and he immediately is confronted with the literal thing blocking him from following his dreams. Kobe has a chance to put his words into action.
Kobe! Who is the most beautiful of all on these seas?
Give me a sec. I know this.
But clearly it's a little easier said than done. Right when he's about to go back to his old ways and tell ALVIDA what she wants to hear, Luffy steps in and says the thing that's on everyone's mind, what everyone's too scared to say.
Hey, Kobe, who's the fat lady?
While being honest is a core trait of the hero, Using some discretion while doing so might be something he could work on as well. Of course, this sets ALVIDA off, and she and the rest of the crew go after Luffy. And then we get a bunch of cuts back and forth between Luffy kicking ass and Kobe in utter shock. We also find out in this scene that Luffy's eaten some gum fruit that's given him the ability to stretch.
I'm a rubber man.
Now, can he stretch everything? Sorry, intrusive thought. Moving on. Once Luffy single-handedly fights off the crew, he and Kobe come face to face with ALVIDA. Kobe goes into cowardly default mode and warns Luffy that he should run away.
Luffy, let's go. Why? You saw how powerful her club is.
Look at him on all fours. But then he stops and remembers the Luffy mentality. He wells up the courage and lets ALVIDA know.
You're the most ugliest thing on the sea!
Kobe is still clearly scared, but he fights through all the mental blocks and fear to stand up to his oppressor. ALVIDA is enraged at this and goes at him with the iron club. Luffy then jumps in and takes the hit for him, which he doesn't even feel because he's made of rubber.
That won't work! What? I'm rubber!
Luffy stretches his arm out and knocks the out of ALVIDA. To depict her defeat, we see her falling from within the center of the sun and crashing down into the ocean. It's imagery that calls back to the very first images of the show. It's as if that which is in the heavens above has placed its judgment and sent her to the hell below. Through ALVIDA's adversary behavior, she embodied the way of the whirlpool and showed us many characteristics of the potential adversary within us all. You do not want to be ALVIDA. She was a tyrant, delusional, manipulative, incompetent, and self-absorbed, all of which consumed her to such a degree that it's only fitting that her story ends falling into the consuming depths of the ocean. In Buddhism, it's called karma. In Christianity, it's you reap what you sow. In Judaism, it's an eye for an eye. And to Justin Timberlake, it's what goes around comes around. Back on the ship, Luffy stands victorious. This episode laid out a fantastic introduction to the kind of person our hero is, and also the kind of person we should be as well. He held many characteristics that embodied the way of the sun, through his resilience, competence, ambition, self-awareness, self-assuredness, and courage. But I want to close by honing in on a single quality he has that truly defines a hero. We see Luffy's values lie beyond his own personal gain. Throughout the episode, despite being complete strangers, Luffy consistently helps Kobe from the moment he meets him. Through that montage, you can see Luffy saved Kobe in more ways than one. Luffy's mindset inspired Kobe into a new perspective, a higher way of thinking that enabled him to break the chains of his self-inflicted psychological oppression. And then at the end, he's saved from literal oppression when Luffy takes an iron club to the face and defeats ALVIDA. A true hero is defined by the ability to transform their journey into something that brings a benefit to others. Sometimes the world. The most grand example of this would be the heroes of our religions, like Buddha, Jesus, Abraham, or Muhammad. They're known to this day because of the things not that they did for themselves, but for the entire world. Being a hero requires someone else to which you're being a hero. Did that make sense? Let me say it again. Being a hero requires someone else to which you're being a hero. You're not a hero if you offer nothing to those around you. I'm not saying you have to go and save the world or anything, but no matter who you are, there's an opportunity to be a hero to someone in your life, even if it's just one person. I believe that was the meaning this episode was trying to convey, all the way back to the very first images of the sun in the whirlpool. As you go through your journey in life, you'll be confronted with these two opposing forces. And someone who is whole is not just conscious of these opposing forces in the external world, but also the opposing forces within themselves. As individuals, we've been placed between these two forces, and every day you have to fight a battle to decide which path you're gonna take. Some days are better than others, but if you're willing to dedicate yourself to the path that leads towards the sun, and maybe even willing to die for it, well, it seems like Luffy and the rest of One Piece might be a great place for you to learn how to do it. Well, that's all I got for now, but stick around after the credits and I'm gonna try and make predictions about the story of One Piece based on what I've seen from this episode alone. If you liked what you heard today, I'd appreciate it if you took the time to like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Alright, time to make some guesses about where this show goes. I genuinely have no idea what happens after episode 5, and that I barely even remember. So starting with ALVIDA, I think we're definitely not done with her. I mean, it might be some time before she comes back, but I think she's definitely coming back. For those of you who are familiar with the hero's journey, I feel like her defeat was definitely a belly of the whale moment for her, and people typically come out of that changed for the better or the worse. So I think there's a possibility she comes back as a more heroic character, but I don't know, they were kind of dicks to her. I feel like she would come back stronger and more pissed off than ever. For Kobe, I think his character's gonna take some time to fully develop. It seems like he needs to go through a bit more before he can really embody the courage of the hero. I also wouldn't be surprised if Luffy saving Kobe becomes like a reoccurring theme in this show. He just gives me that vibe that he's gonna be constantly getting himself in trouble. However, I do think in the long term he will be a courageous character and that he'll be able to use his story to help other people find courage. Okay, and lastly, Luffy. I wouldn't be surprised if his story follows a more classic hero's journey, but if there is a twist, I think it would be in the One Piece treasure. The desire for wealth, fame, and power just doesn't seem to really fit well with who Luffy is. Maybe there's some motivation I just don't know yet, like he wants to destroy it, like a Lord of the Rings type of thing, or maybe he wants to use it for the goodness of mankind. It's hard to say at this point, but I do feel like at the end of the day, the real treasure is gonna be the way he helps the people around him. At the end of the episode, he even says he was gonna go out and find a crew. And I get the feeling that the entire show is gonna be him getting distracted from his own goal for the sake of helping his friends out with accomplishing their goals. So there's just a few random predictions, and now that I've made this video, I can actually watch it myself and find out what happens. But please, go ahead and let me know if I was close or not close at all. I still wanna know.